Welcome back everyone to issue number 3 of Thrawn Alliances, the comic book adaptation. So in the present, Thrawn and Vader were headed to go find the disturbance, or the people that the Emperor sensed. But once they got to the house that they were looking for, the ship that was there had literally just taken off. Vader wants to send the Chimera after them, but Thrawn is like, it's no use really because our forces are way too far out to actually catch them. Instead, they need to send their forces after the other freighter that had been coming for them. Meanwhile, they can investigate the house to see what they find. Thrawn and Vader's men are able to board the ship, and they are met with some pretty severe resistance from an alien species that I don't think we've actually ever even seen before. They are able to commandeer the freighter though, and they end up with a bunch of prisoners behind the bridge door. Meanwhile, Thrawn and Vader are investigating the house, and they walk in to find a bunch of tanks. And Thrawn asks if maybe they're cloning tubes, but Vader corrects him saying they're just hibernation tanks, and he's going to have 2 of them sent to the Chimera for analysis. He also reasons that the bartender must have known more than he said, so they head back to go investigate that a little bit further. On their way there, Thrawn tells his people to not let the prisoners see their destination, and when they do end up showing them, to kind of mark down their reactions to gauge whether or not they're surprised to see this Star Destroyer. When Thrawn and Vader arrive to the bar, everything has been all cleaned up, and more Darshi are back and drinking, which really pisses off Vader since Thrawn had commanded them not to disturb the bodies, but Thrawn is like, you know, whatever, it's fine. I was done anyways, and what I really need is to see the knives of all these Darshi sitting here in the bar right now. So Vader, of course, force pulls them away from everyone, and Thrawn notes how these weapons are much more elegant than the ones they were attacked with, which was just some cheaper substitute. Thrawn guesses that maybe they were a token of honor and family, and for some reason, those attackers lost theirs. He then shows a hollow projection of the species that were on the freighter that his men took control of to the bartender, and he asks the bartender if he's ever seen them before, to which the bartender says that he had. Those were actually the ones that had scared him and the other Darshi when they arrived. And then Thrawn drops what I think is kind of a bombshell, and he says that these must be the grisks. They're an almost mythical species that is said to have so many troops that they can overwhelm an enemy just by sheer numbers, and also they are a very ruthless people that conquer and destroy. They have been secretly infiltrating the Chiss society for years now, unknowingly to anyone but a handful of Chiss. To my knowledge, this is the actual first canon picture of a grisk we have. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong on that though. Anyways, Thrawn and Vader get back on the ship, and Thrawn now realizes that the Darshi have been storing the cylinders for the grisk to come pick up later. But their arrival had changed the plans of all these kidnappers, and they ended up taking off, leaving the grisk ship behind. Unfortunately, all the living prisoners left that they captured were actually just useless techs, so actually they need to go find some living grisks now to interrogate. In our flashback now, we see Anakin and Thrawn are also headed back to talk to the bartender that they met all those years ago to discuss the worthless cargo that they found when a bunch of people standing in front of the bar spot them and then start to attack. Anakin is easily able to defeat them all, leaving only the leader alive, and the man says, you know, hey man, I'm just a simple cargo inspector, to which Anakin is like, he's like, you're pretty trash at that job, aren't you? Because all of the cargo is compromised. Then Anakin suggests to Thrawn that they take him inside, to which Thrawn agrees. When they get inside, the bartender tries to play stupid at first, but Thrawn is like, stop with the BS, man. I'm gonna tell you what we know, and you're gonna fill in the rest. What we know. You're smugglers and thieves, and part of the separatist movement, in which their Duke has constructed a base to ship supplies through Batuu. But the Duke didn't expect thieves to be targeting them, so clearly this bartender was telling the thieves which shipments were most valuable. But then someone arrived that identified the cargo and traced it back to Batuu, Duja, the girl that Padme was looking for originally. She entered the base and alerted the Republic, but unfortunately she was captured, and they assumed that she was a thief and killed her. But the Duke started now to look for more thieves. The real thieves tried to leave, but they found that their landing pad was occupied by a diplomatic ambassador ship, Padme obviously, which is where they now need the smugglers to fill in the rest. What happened to the ambassador that showed up? The men say like, hey, she just landed here, sang a song for that dead woman, and then left. That's all they know. Anakin uses the Force, and through that he can tell that they're actually telling the truth, which honestly kind of pisses him off. The bartender asks if they're going to turn them over to the Separatists now, but Thrawn steps in and he's like, the Separatists are not really in a position to deal out punishment right now, but any Separatists that are here right now, We're about to strand with you since we're gonna steal their ship and take it to Mokiv, so yeah, good luck. At that statement, the cargo inspector pulls out a concealed blaster from a crate behind him and forces Anakin and Thrawn to dispose of everyone in the room except the bartender. Thrawn does mention that now that they've killed both the separatists and the smugglers that were there, that's going to make the bartender a bit of a suspect of collusion, so they recommend that he get the hell out of there, to which the bartender is more than happy to do. Anakin asks Thrawn how he knew it was the planet Mokiv, and he's like, didn't the reaction to me saying the name prove it to you when all those guys jumped out and tried to kill us? And Anakin is like, yeah, I mean, it did prove it to me, but I'm asking how you knew because you clearly knew before you said it. Thrawn responds that when they were looking at the possible systems in the database, that was the only planet with information that assisted with incoming navigation. He also mentions to Anakin that this has escalated to a mission for his Republic, and his priority should now shift to victory in the mission and not the rescue mission for the ambassador. Anakin, of course, knows Thrawn is right, but really doesn't like that, and ultimately, he would definitely say F the Republic's mission if it meant sacrificing Padme. Finally, we have Padme, who we last left with some vulture droids eating her ship away. Basically, she crashes down into the river below her onto the planet, and as her ship is sinking and filling up with water, she decides to try a desperate attempt to use the current created by her ship to swim out to the surface, which will hopefully lead to the Separatist facility. And that, everyone, will wrap up issue number 3 of Thrawn Alliances. We are now 3/4 of the way finished with this story, and we'll be wrapping it up in the next issue, so stay tuned for that. I know there are a lot of timelines here to keep track of, but let me know which timeline is your favorite to follow. I'm Keegs, and I will catch you all next time for some more Star Wars content.